In 1969, a 6-year-old boy stepped behind a boulder to prank his family. He was never seen again. No body, no trail, no explanation. And the search that followed was one of the largest in American history. It found nothing. This isn't a cold case that faded into paperwork. This is a disappearance that defied logic from the first minute. Search dogs lost a trail where no trail should end. Military units combed the mountain and found nothing. And a witness reported seeing something that has never been satisfactorily explained. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what the evidence shows, and exactly why, more than 50 years later, nobody has a satisfying answer. There are two details in this case that have never been resolved. We'll get to both. June 14th, 1969, a Saturday. The Martin family is hiking in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Spence Field, a high-elevation meadow along the Appalachian Trail in Tennessee. Dennis Martin is 6 years old. He's with his father William, his grandfather, and his brother Doug. Clear weather, a familiar kind of family hike. Around 4:30 in the afternoon, the boys decide to play a prank. They split into two groups, sneak around opposite sides of the adults, and plan to jump out simultaneously and surprise them. It's the kind of game kids have played forever. The other boys come out on cue. Dennis doesn't. William Martin looks behind the boulder immediately. There is nothing there. No Dennis. No sounds. No movement in the tree line. In the time it takes to walk around a rock, a child is simply gone. William begins searching immediately. Within 30 minutes, other hikers are helping. Within an hour, the Park Service is involved. By nightfall, there are hundreds of people on that mountain. The search for Dennis Martin had begun, and it would become one of the most exhaustive and most baffling searches in the history of the National Park System. Here's the first thing that doesn't make sense. The search dogs found a scent trail. They followed it to a specific point on the mountain, and then the trail stopped. Not faded, not split, stopped. As if Dennis Martin ceased to exist at a precise location on that hillside. Within 48 hours, the search had escalated beyond anything the Park Service had handled before. National Park Service rangers, local law enforcement, volunteer search teams, and eventually, United States Army Special Forces from Fort Bragg, Green Berets, deployed to find a missing 6-year-old in the Smoky Mountains. At its peak, the search involved over 1,400 people. They covered Spence Field and the surrounding terrain in systematic grids. They searched drainages, creek beds, and cliff faces. Helicopters ran patterns overhead. They found nothing. Not a footprint beyond the point where the dogs lost the trail. Not a piece of clothing. Not a single physical trace. For a search of that scale to produce absolutely nothing, that isn't just unfortunate. It's almost impossible to explain logically. William Martin later went on record criticizing the response. He believed the first hours were mismanaged. That critical time was lost. Whether he was right about the details, the result was the same. His son was gone. But here's where the case takes a turn. On the same day Dennis vanished, a family nearby reported seeing something. Something that has never been fully explained and never been eliminated from the case. Harold Key was hiking with his family in the park on June 14th. He reported seeing a large, disheveled man moving through the forest, moving fast, carrying something large over his shoulder, something that appeared to be making sounds. Key reported it to a ranger after hearing about the missing child. The timing placed the sighting in the early evening. Some accounts put it between 6 and 6:45 p.m. Now, it's important to be precise here. The location Key described was several miles from Spence Field by trail. The FBI and Park Service largely discounted a direct connection for that reason. But the description, a large unknown man moving off trail, carrying something, in the same park on the same day, has troubled researchers ever since. While the distance was significant, the timing and the descriptions still appear in serious examinations of this case decades later. The man Harold Key saw was never identified, never found, never formally eliminated. That detail sits in the case file unresolved. And then, 16 years after Dennis vanished, something happened that made the case impossible to close. In 1985, a ginseng hunter reported finding what appeared to be child skeletal remains in a remote area of the park, near Tremont in the Big Hollow region. The location was deep in the backcountry, difficult terrain, an area that had been covered during the original search. Authorities responded. When they reached the location, there was nothing there. No remains, no evidence, nothing to confirm what the hunter reported seeing. Whether the hunter was mistaken, whether remains were moved, or whether something else entirely explains that report, no one has ever determined. What it added to the case was another layer of impossibility. A witness reporting something significant, authorities finding nothing. A pattern that runs through the Dennis Martin case from beginning to present. Dennis Martin has never been found. No confirmed remains, no cause of death, no explanation. His case remains officially open. Here's what makes this case different from a tragic accident. Accidents leave evidence. A child who falls, gets lost, succumbs to exposure. These are devastating outcomes, but they leave traces. Clothing, remains, something. In 56 years, nothing conclusive has ever been found. The search dogs lost a trail that should have continued. A witness reported an unidentified man that was never traced. A ginseng hunter reported possible remains that disappeared before they could be confirmed. Researcher David Paulides includes Dennis Martin as one of the most representative cases in his Missing 411 work, documenting what he describes as a pattern of unexplained disappearances in national parks that share similar characteristics. Whether you find his framework compelling or not, the core facts of this case stand on their own. A 6-year-old boy, a clear day, his family 20 feet away, gone in seconds. No trace, no answers, just a name on an open case file, and a mountain that kept it secret. What do you think happened to Dennis Martin? Was it a tragic accident that left no evidence? Was Harold Key's sighting connected despite the distance? Or is there something about these mountains that we still don't understand? Drop your theory in the comments. And if this case stayed with you, the next video goes even deeper. 5 young men vanish after a basketball game in California. They're found months later in a remote mountain cabin, miles from anywhere they should have been. One of them is never found at all. No explanation for how they got there, ever. That's the Yuba County 5, and it's up next on Hollow Wild.